Housing, affordable housing, housing prices have been a big topic in Arizona for quite a while now. We are a destination. People are moving here. We have industry is coming and bringing with them jobs, and that means more and more people will be coming to the desert Southwest. The Starter Homes Act, SB 1229, and House Bill HB 2371, an attempt to build smaller homes on smaller lots. Joining us now to talk about this, Senate President Warren Peterson and Senator Analise Ortiz. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start with either one of you. Please feel free to jump in and answer. Is there a lot of bipartisan support in the legislature for this? And if so, what perspective from both sides led this to bipartisan support?
I'll let Senator or ladies first.
Yeah, well, Mike, we have huge bipartisan support on this bill, and we also had bipartisan support last year when a similar version was vetoed. We've come back this year and made some edits to address the governor's concern, and we are really proud to have brought more members on board to support the Starter Homes Act because this crisis is just too big. The average age of a first-time homebuyer in Arizona is 38 years old, which is pretty old when you think about how back in the 90s, you would be able to find a home, in your early 20s at a reasonable price. And now we have middle-class folks who just cannot afford that, with the average home price being around $400,000. And so this tries to roll back some of those onerous regulations that cities have imposed to allow builders to build smaller homes on smaller lots so young people like myself can get our foot in the door and start gaining that generational wealth.
Yeah, anecdotally, Senator, I was just looking online at houses the other day, and in Mesa, I saw a house, a beautiful home for $780,000. And I looked at the history of that home. That very same home sold 7 years ago to the current owners for $360,000. It was a $420,000 increase in just 7 years in the value of that home. And that's great for the homeowner, but for somebody trying to jump into the market, that seems impossible.
That's exactly right. And that is what we are trying to achieve with the Starter Homes Act, is to enable the development of smaller homes on smaller lots so that we can address the housing shortage that we are currently in, which I know President Peterson knows quite a bit about that shortage and how it impacts when it comes to just basic supply and demand.
Yeah, President Peterson, the changes that you've made this time around this year, what changes are significant that you think are significant enough? And have you had conversations with the governor's office, and is she more inclined to sign it this year than veto it?
Yeah, so first of all, just back to your last question, this is definitely a bipartisan effort. You don't see that a lot at the legislature on, really hot topics like this. But you've got Democrats and Republicans coming together. We share the same solutions on how to do it. We know that what we need is supply, and government is definitely getting in the way of being able to create more supply. And so I'll tell you that, we're optimistic that the governor will sign this because this is a bipartisan effort. We've seen in the past, for example, the tamale bill. It was a very bipartisan bill. She vetoed it, and there were some, adjustments made, and she was able to sign the bill going forward.
The opposition from the League of Cities and Towns, I understand what their point is. They want to be able to control the development in their individual cities, that the local jurisdictions would understand what's best for their community. But without the cooperation of the cities and the towns of saying we are willing to do these things, what are the other options for affordable housing?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Mike. And unfortunately, last year we worked on a bill to legalize more types of homes like townhomes and duplexes, triplexes, and the cities were on board with that bill last year. Now, as they are trying to start implementing the bill, we are seeing cities trying to intentionally get around those state level standards that we set so that they could build as little housing as possible. So when we're talking about the housing housing shortage, we really need cities to step up to the plate, and they are proving that they just have not done that. We have had several stakeholder meetings this year on the Starter Homes Act to come to some negotiations. We've been willing to make changes like increasing the minimum lot size, as well as ensuring that we give the cities the flexibility to demand impact fees from the developers so they can pay for those essential infrastructure changes that they might need to accommodate more housing. And still, the cities are continuing to tell us that they will not support any state level attempt to bring around more by right development. And what's so frustrating about that is that this is a level of statewide concern. We have 86% of people nationally who agree with this proposal to allow smaller homes on smaller lots. And yet we have the cities continuing to block any attempt to significantly address the housing shortage to drive down costs.
So for President Peterson, because I know you know this industry so very well, it would seem to me from an industry standpoint that the market is there, that for the investors that would invest immediately in something, building smaller homes on smaller lots. But for Senator Ortiz, the other side of this is if we want to build a community, we're concerned about traffic for the people that are concerned about the air quality that we have and the travel times for people, having teachers and first-year lawyers and people out of law school and college and cops and firefighters being able to, at a younger age, buy a home in the community where they work seems to be best overall for everyone. Isn't that the selling point from both perspectives, from the investors that would build these properties and the availability in the market and the people that would buy them?
Yeah, 100%, Mike. And, kind of along the lines of what Senator Ortiz was saying is, they say possession is 9/10 of the law. We'll pass these laws and then the cities are obstructing. What there really needs to be is a culture shift in these cities. We really need the town managers, the city managers to come on board and their staff and realize that, building a supply of homes is a good thing. It used to be a good thing. And that for whatever reason, about 15, 20 years ago, cities no longer wanted to help with the supply of homes. And you don't see anybody walking around today going to homes that were built 20 plus years ago and saying, oh, we need to bulldoze that home there. We need to bulldoze this home over here. But they virtually made all the homes that my parents lived in, my grandparents, heck, that I grew up in, illegal. We need to make more product and more styles and more homes available so people have more choices. And especially we need to make sure that there's a choice for our kids. I mean, our kids are in total despair right now because they cannot afford to buy a home because these cities are basically outlawing this, the small starter home that used to be available to first-time buyers. So there needs to be this culture shift where the cities come on board and they stop fighting us. What we really need probably is you're going to have to put some enforcement or some consequences in some of these bills for them not, really following the law, trying to find ways around it.
And it also is public perception, isn't it? Because growing up where I did, it's that NIMBY thing, that not in my backyard. I grew up in an area when I started in construction anecdotally in Southwest Florida in a town called Cape Coral, which is a very popular place now. And what I did was I was an electrician building starter homes, and they were exactly what you're talking about. Smaller homes on smaller lot. They didn't compromise quality. What they did was make it affordable because they could build more homes in a space, and the developers could make their money, but the cities also had their tax base because they were building more homes in that smaller space. It worked.
Yeah, it's a win for everybody. I mean, it's the American dream, and it's really what separated the United States from the rest of the world is property rights, the ability to buy and own and control your property. And so we really need to make sure that we're protecting property rights, making sure that our kids, our grandkids can afford homes. And this isn't a silver bullet. This is like a small piece of the puzzle. It really needs to be an all hands on deck approach. And what's good is I've been down at the legislature a long time, but I've never seen this amount of bipartisan support on an issue. So I think that's encouraging. So I think we're starting to get the right policies moving. And so I think there's hope for this.
All right. So Go ahead,
Another
Senator.
important piece, Mike, is that the bill is very limited in scope. It would only allow for the development of these smaller starter homes on areas of 5 acres, and it exempts out several different areas like historic neighborhoods, for example. But unfortunately, we continue to see people who already own homes who are coming down to the legislature fighting these bills when it would not impact any of the homes within a 5-mile radius around them. So it is quite an eye-opening debate when you see who is on the opposition side versus everyone else, the very strong, diverse, bipartisan coalition of support.
See, that led me directly into my last question. I want to start with you, Senator Ortiz, and I would allow President Peterson to follow up. Then what information do people need to know about this specifically, or where can they find it? But also the people out there that are motivated to action, what should they be doing in their individual towns to move this forward so the towns they live in are actually getting on board with this?
We really need people to reach out not only to your lawmakers, but to your city council members, especially if you are a renter or if you are a parent whose adult child is living with you because they can't afford to own their own home. Let them know what you're going through, because it is really something that is impacting people of all income levels from all across the state. And there is huge support for this, and we need to hear from you if you support this bill. I also encourage folks to follow the Arizona Neighborhood Project, which is a community organization that's putting out some really great information and data about how this bill will actually impact Arizona.
President Peterson?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. We need to reach out. We need to remember our values, our core principles, what our whole country was based on. I mean, it was all about land, and the Homestead Acts, the very beginning, where government was giving people parcels and a piece of the American dream. And now it's kind of like, oh, well, we have our piece of the American dream. We don't want anybody else to have that. So, and there's always this kind of fear of the unknown. People are afraid of something, but what would happen when these homes get built is it's going to be fine. These are homes. Now, I get it. Sometimes people get mad about apartments, but these are not apartments. We're talking about single family, small starter homes, the same homes that probably almost everybody, lived in as one of their first homes. You had it as your first home. Let's make sure our kids and grandkids have it as our first home.
Well said. Thank you both so much for the information, and I would love to speak with you both again as this progresses, and we'll see if it doesn't get to the governor's desk. But thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Mike.
All right, that is the Senate President Warren Peterson and Democrat Senator Analise Ortiz in a bipartisan effort for starter homes.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.